Hi, I'm Chris with Buckeye Concealment and Training, and today we're going to go over the differences between semi-automatic pistol action types. So, let's start with single action only. That would be represented today by my Rock Island Armory 1911 in 45 ACP. So, right now we've got the hammer in the at rest position, which means the trigger is not going to do anything. No play in there. So, to cock the hammer on a semi-auto single action, if it's got an exposed hammer, some do, some don't, then you can either pull the hammer back manually, or if there's no round in the chamber, the more sensible way to do it and hit two birds with one stone is to simply run the slide. Okay, so now I've reciprocated the slide and that has cocked my hammer for me. So, single action semi-autos typically have very nice triggers. Not a lot of play, not a lot of travel, and light. Very, very consistent and easy to pull. So, single action only. And what I don't have pictured is a double action only. But that basically being that the gun is going to, through the trigger, both cock the hammer and release it. You typically got a lot more travel, a lot more play, and a much heavier pull required to fire the gun. But what I do have that's pretty similar is this Walther P22 and 22LR, which is both double action and single action. So right now it is sitting in the single action mode because the hammer is down, or I'm sorry, yes, the hammer is down, and the trigger is all the way forward. So I've got this gun loaded with one snap cap. Yep. One snap cap, and doing my press check there, you might notice that the hammer moved back just a little bit. It's now caught on what's referred to as the safety notch, or what some people call the half cock position. But for most guns, it's really a safety notch, and it exists to allow for something to catch that hammer should the main catch all the way back fail. That will prevent this hammer from striking the firing pin and thus striking around if you have one in the chamber, causing an accidental discharge. And a note about accidental discharges: they're incredibly rare. What's far more common is a negligent discharge. So accidental means there's something wrong with the gun, nothing the user could have done to prevent a round from going off. Rare. Negligent discharge means that someone was operating their firearm incorrectly, perhaps inexperienced, and they caused the gun to go off, typically through poor trigger control. So, note about trigger control: that's how your hand should be on your gun. Or you could have it up here, over here. Somewhere in that area is where your finger needs to be. I personally like just resting it on the frame instead of the slide. A little more comfortable. The main point is you're not touching that trigger. I'm not a fan of this either. It's just too close. So, good habit to get in, just rest it on the frame. Very, very important for safe gun handling. So, but to go on to what double action mode looks like. So, gotta pull that trigger, which is going to cock my hammer for me, and then release it, causing the trigger to go forward again. But note about semi-automatic double and single actions. So, just like the 1911 in single, this is going to cause the slide to reciprocate on a live round, and that's going to cock the hammer for me. So it would normally go back into battery if I had another round in there, and then I'm ready to go. And you'll notice the trigger is sitting much further forward now. In single action mode, just like on a 1911 or a single action only gun, you've got far less trigger travel that you need to go through and a much lighter pull. I'm not actually going to pull this one right now because I don't have another snap cap in there, and this is a rim fire gun. I don't want to hurt my firing pin by having it strike the side of the chamber rather than the rim of a cartridge or snap cap. So we'll move on to the last iteration of a semi-automatic action type, and that would be striker fired, exemplified by my Glock 19. So in a striker fired gun, typically the striker is existing in a sort of half cock position. The striker replaces what in other guns would be the hammer. So it's existing at a state of half cock with some spring tension pulling it back. And when you go to fire the gun, you've got good amount of play, good amount of tension. This one's 4.5 to 6.5 pounds, somewhere in there. And you're finishing cocking that striker. You're pulling back against a little bit of that spring tension on it, and then when you pull the trigger all the way, you're releasing that striker to allow the firing pin to propel forward, strike around, gun goes off. So the most simple of all of these systems is definitely a striker-fired gun. If you're new to firearms and looking for a first pistol, I'd highly recommend a striker-fired gun. It doesn't have to necessarily be a Glock 19, like what I've got here, chambered in 9mm, but I would highly recommend Glocks. They're very simple to clean, very simple to operate, and they run. They just work. So that's why a lot of cops and military guys carry one like this. So that concludes my presentation today on the different semi-automatic pistol action types. I hope you found this video informative, and feel free to like, comment, subscribe. That stuff all helps me out a lot. I'll be putting out a lot more content related to firearms, handling, manipulation, shooting. I'm a firearms instructor in Northeast Ohio, NRA certified. Feel free to visit my website if you're interested in taking a class. I run one every month. That website is buckeyeconcealmentandtraining.com. You can also find it in the description below. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.